Yeah, there was a Ubisoft event where a ton of press went to. I think it was because yeah, they have this whole anniversary thing going on. Of course, we saw that at E3 as well. They're 20 years old if I'm correct. So they have like this, we are Ubisoft and stuff like that. They're proud of themselves, of course. Well, at that event, a ton of press could talk to the CEO, Yves Guillemot. And yeah, I mean, normally when you're interviewing these types of people, it can be interesting or it can be like total PR shit. And I think that this guy has some interesting stuff to talk about. Of course, he has a ton of insights because he's been with Ubisoft since 2001, so he knows a lot of stuff. Of course, they talked a little bit about the independence because they maybe have a hostile takeover by Vivendi, and what that will cost for the company. Well, he said, in short, yeah, a lot. They will lose maybe creativity. They now need to make an Assassin's Creed game every 6 months, something like that. Yeah. Speaking of Assassin's Creed as well, he said that the game might not launch in 2017 because it will launch when it's ready. And of course, this was like the result of Syndicate not selling very well, the shitstorm that happened with Unity. The game was just broken at launch. It even was delayed but a few weeks because they wanted to get it out in November because then games sell a ton. So holiday season, of course. So they should have delayed it, but they didn't because they knew, okay, we have this other Assassin's Creed game, and otherwise there might be 8 months in between, and that would not be good. So now they really, yeah, we don't see an Assassin's Creed game this year, and that's really weird because for the last years we saw every year a new Assassin's Creed game. We still have the collection, but not like a full-fledged new game, and we might not see it next year as well. And this is like interesting because we always think about with annual games that release every year that when will it stop? Okay, we can now be, I think we can be sure that, for example, Call of Duty will not stop anytime soon because yeah, was like a sort of dip, but then Black Ops 3 happened and it was like one of the most successful Call of Duties ever. So that went really well for them, of course. And then we have FIFA. Yeah, those sports games will happen every year, of course. People are used to that as well. And yeah, some games they just can't do it. I mean, Pokemon also had like some sort of annual release. Black and White 2 even happened. They really push that out every year, but yeah, there was not a lot of talk about that. Well, last year they skipped it, and now they're back with Sun and Moon, and we see a ton of changes in Sun and Moon. We see that, okay, I thought the remakes like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they were just remakes, right? And now with Sun and Moon, they have side quests, they have a ton of weird forms for the different Pokemon that we already know, and they are really doing a lot of stuff. You can ride your Pokemon. It has like its islands now, and so because they took this year off, I think they really can start to look at the game and see, okay, we can do a lot of different stuff as well and make it a better game instead of releasing it every year. And I think that they are doing that now with Assassin's Creed as well, and I think they will really benefit from that. So what do you think about that they just keep their games sometimes, and maybe after this Assassin's Creed we will see it every year again because they now have this new thing going on, and then they might be gone after 2 years, or yeah, just skip 1 year after 2 years of releasing an Assassin's Creed every year. So what do you think of this trend of annual games? Some games just can do it, but some games just need some time as well.
I honestly don't think any game should be annual, just because
Okay.
if you look at all of the ones that are, like the Madden series, FIFA series, a lot of them end up having glitches, bugs. They don't really change too much to really warrant $60. The only reason why people buy them, especially the sports games, isn't because of new additions. It's hardly because of that. It's always because of roster updates. Because you don't want to be that one guy who's still playing the last year's roster and all your friends are playing this year's roster. And let's face it, they could easily just update the rosters in these games and release one every other year. But because they're such a simplistic style of games, the sports games are, they don't really have to improve much because they know that they already have a market for it. And it's not that much of a complex game where, like an Assassin's Creed game, which is like a full featured storyline that has to sort of be a AAA experience. they don't have to worry about as much bugs and as much game-breaking stuff as like an Assassin's Creed franchise would, so they could push it out every single year and the game functions mostly fine. There's a little bit of hiccups here and there. Like I still remember watching a clip on Twitter of Madden 17. Someone, I think it was, he threw a pass or whatever. It bounced off a guy's hand or whatever, and it flew like all the way back, like a rubber band effect towards another defender, like 10 yards away, intercepted and ran it back for a touchdown or whatever. So freaking bizarre and just awkward just watching that. And if that happened to me during the game, I probably would go in and trade it in, because that's complete horseshit. And that type of stuff happens because they're annual releases. And with Unity, and then also all the Assassin's Creed, as they started speeding up and just sort of combine them all into a cluster of annual releases, that you started seeing a degradation of quality amongst them. Unity was a complete train wreck. Black Flag wasn't really that great. Trying to think of all the other ones, but Syndicate is a new one, right?
Yeah, that was the last year's one.
Yeah, Syndicate was actually good. I bought Syndicate. I originally tried it out on one of my friends' accounts. I was like, oh, all right. I probably won't really like it that much. Probably just same old Assassin's Creed. I ended up actually purchasing it, because I'm like, this is what Ubisoft needs to do. Every other year is fine. Every year is not. Because, number one, it wears people out. They start being like, oh, it's just another Assassin's Creed. Oh, it's just another Call of Duty. Luckily for Call of Duty, though, they have multiple developers working on the dang thing. And they're not the same philosophies either. Where, yeah, before they had different developers working on Assassin's Creeds to be able to release them so quickly, sure. But they shared the same philosophy, so you didn't get different experiences every time you purchased a new one. It was just sort of different in terms of the story and the setting. So I think that for annual games, they need to stop. It's not good. It doesn't really allow them to develop new features, as you mentioned, with Pokemon, as we saw with Assassin's Creed, and how Syndicate turned out, where it was a better game. A lot of people reviewed it better, but it didn't sell as well because people were skeptical. They didn't think that Ubisoft was going to release a good game. And that's what that causes. It causes a distrust within a company that they're just going to keep just throwing out quantity rather than quality. And that needs to stop. They need to start caring about their product and release it when it's ready, and that's it.
And also something that's interesting, and that's also of course with that comes with annual releases. It's not really special anymore, right? When a new Assassin's Creed launches every year, it's not really an event anymore. A good example is GTA, for example. They could probably release that every year if they wanted to. If they just hired a ton of people and had some figureheads, of course, overseeing the projects, they could release that every year and make a ton of money. But they don't do it because they want to be around forever. They want this franchise to be around forever, and they will do that by not releasing a game every year. And this is like Rockstar's philosophy as a whole. They could probably already have released a new Red Dead game, but they are waiting for to polish it up, because with Rockstar games that they are polished, they really feature a ton of content, and then that okay, if this is going to release, you probably have to wait 6 years or something like that for a new title. So the release of this game is like super special, and that also makes GTA, of course, super interesting, and a huge success. It's still selling. I mean, if they would release a new GTA game last year, the previous one would not be selling for $60 right now. So it's also like your brand is more valuable if you don't release it every year. That's also interesting take on the whole annual releases thing. Should not every game release annual? I don't know if they can pull it off. I mean, what Call of Duty is doing right now, they also like changed their model a little bit. Of course, first they had two companies working, or two developers working on the Call of Duty game, so they each had 2 years to make a new one. And now Sledgehammer is in the mix as well. We will see their next game next year. And they've been working on that for 3 years, so they can now, that could also be a way to go for annual games. If you just have multiple companies doing it. And then they still have 3 years, because with sport games, you only have like 8 months to fully focus on this new game. And with sport games, I totally agree. It's the roster update. They could probably patch it, but yeah, it's still selling like crazy every year. So
because it's a monopoly too. I mean,
yeah.
how many other alternatives are out there? There's really not much. With basketball, you have the 2K series, which is why the 2K series is so popular compared to the EA series for basketball, at least. And then you have, I think, PES, and also FIFA competing, if I remember correctly. But like with Madden, you don't have an alternative. You have to buy Madden, or you don't get a football game. And that's a shame. I wish 2K would still produce a football game, because I think it would be a very interesting sort of competition between the two, like it was before. But when it really comes down to it, like Fallout 4, for instance, sold it sold like hotcakes. Sold so much copies. And that's because Bethesda spaces out their sequels. That's what they do. And they space them out quite a bit. They do like what Rockstar does. They release them when they think it's ready. And they don't rush it out the door. They don't try and go for an annual release. And because of that, they sell a ton of copies. I think if you were to total the amount of copies of like Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2, maybe even Assassin's Creed 3, at least the physical copies that you can see off VG charts, you still probably want to hit the revenue, or you would probably come close to the revenue that Fallout 4 did, just because of the fact that it was special at the time. And even if you look at the newer Assassin's Creeds, it would take multiples of them to total a Fallout 4, because of the fact that they're not special anymore. And Syndicate was somewhat special. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people who enjoyed it, because it felt like a good Assassin's Creed game. Was it the best one? I don't think so. I still love 2 and 1. They're my favorite. But I think that it was certainly an Assassin's Creed game that if they kept developing to that capability, I probably would check it out. But if they start trying to speed it up again, because Vivendi tries to, get their claws into the business, and tries to, forcefully take over the company, which was what I remember them trying to be doing right now, and Ubisoft's trying to fight them off. If they get their greedy claws into the company and they start trying to speed up Assassin's Creed games again, they just lost a customer, because I can see through their crap. It's going to be buggy. It's not going to work that well. It's going to be very uninteresting, just because the stories are going to be so same old, and they're going to run out of ideas very quickly, where if they just release one every 2 or 3 years, it would feel more special. And that's what people like. They want that special feeling, and they just cannot do it with annual releases. The only ones that can is like smaller games, like Telltale
competitive games as well.
Yeah, and competitive games. But Telltale games as well, those could be somewhat counted as annual or really high frequency, because they release. Yeah. You have a Telltale game every single year. You just do. So
two.
Yeah, even 2. So it's like, they're small though. I can understand that. People still have problems with their engine. I personally don't mind their engine. It runs just fine. I mean, sure, it could be more
mostly
optimized,
on PC. On PC, on the console, it runs bad.
Yeah. Does it run bad on console?
Yeah, even the new one. I had some problem. It will also sometimes release on the Vita. Well, that just don't do it.
Yeah, with Batman, I know they had PC issues and they fixed them fairly quickly. But yeah, I didn't even know that there was that many issues on the console. But I mean, if they released them slower, that probably have those issues. But it's one of those things.
Or not on all the platforms. It's probably because it's releasing on your on everything.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, exactly. They're spreading themselves out. But it comes down to the saying that a lot of people use in sports: speed kills. In this case, speed kills your overall quality of your product. You always want to take your time, make sure it's fully baked, and not release a game raw.
Absolutely. And just to round this topic out, do you think that the new Assassin's Creed game will miss 2017?
I don't think it will. I really think it probably would be holiday of 2017 is my gut feeling, just because they probably will want to get it out. They don't want to hold on to it too long. I hope that they do hold it though. Just
if they need the time, of course.
Yeah, exactly. If they need the time, because I want Ubisoft to realize, and I think they somewhat have a good bit, that they release good concepts every once in a while. They just need time to flesh them out to make them more special. And Ubisoft noticed that their quality, obviously because of Unity and a lot of other examples, they couldn't do it as fast. It basically became a sweatshop, as some employees that left were basically talking about, that it was just like a sweatshop of game creation. And that's not good. I'm sure they saw it wasn't good, and they realized that their profits weren't really going to suffer too much in the grand scheme of things once people gain confidence that Ubisoft can release good products again. So yeah, I hope that it gets delayed. I really do. I hope that it doesn't release in 2017. I want a good Assassin's Creed game. I don't want a Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think for now they're totally aiming for holiday 2017 because it makes a ton of sense. But
It does, yeah.
he's now saying when it's ready, to of course have so people will have faith in the product as well. And I think they will announce it for the holiday, and delay it if it's needed. I think we can, that's the result of that quote, I think.